Hello everybody. This is a video that I've created for our Tomb of Annihilation Welcome to the Jungle 5e game that we've been playing for the last couple of years. I've created a spreadsheet out in Google Sheets for us to track inventory on. It also uses the Variant Encumbrance rules, so we can kind of see how that would affect our characters and see if that's something we want to go with. So hopefully over the course of about 10 minutes, I can walk you through how this sheet works and then hand it over to you. Down in the description will be links so that you can get a copy of it. I'll also hand over a copy of it with all the formulas and everything unlocked. If you're the kind of person that wants to go out there and monkey with those formulas or see how it works, I'll show that to you as well. All right, so let's just dive right into this. Jump over to the sheet and you'll see that there's about 5 tabs across the bottom down here. The first one's a summary tab. All you got to do here is type in your character's name, his strength, his or her strength. In Dandelion's case, it's an 8. And pick their size. Small and medium doesn't really have much of an effect, but if you happen to be playing a large creature, or if magic changes your size temporarily or changes your strength temporarily, then you can come out here and change that to see how that would impact what you can carry at that particular time. So this sheet can be tweaked dynamically based on the fact that you drank a potion of giant strength or you've been enlarged or whatever, especially if that was done for the purposes of carrying something heavy out of the dungeon or something like that. All right, so let's go on over and just take a look at the sheets themselves. There's 3 sheets because you might have up to 3 characters in my game, the A, B, and C team. So there's an A, B, and C sheet. There's also a notes tab here where I kind of break down the different kind of containers that are managed on the sheet. And I talked to you a little bit about the math that comes from those. For instance, a belt pouch can hold 6 pounds of gear according to the player's handbook. A backpack, according to the player's handbook, can hold 30 pounds. I upped that to 45. Things like quivers, I did a little bit of math on them because I know that they can hold a maximum of 20 arrows, and I know what 20 arrows weigh. So I let you know if you exceed those thresholds. Nothing about the sheet stops you from saying you're carrying 500 arrows in a quiver, but everything turns red and the sheet gets angry at you if you bust those thresholds. So you'll become familiar with that as you see it, and I'll show you an example of it as we go along. All right, so let's just dive right into the sheet itself. The first section you've got here shows your container types, and these are the types of things that you might be carrying things in. The sheet wants to know which ones of them you're using. You notice I've already got backpack flagged as yes, and it's showing 5 pounds because the sheet knows a backpack weighs 5 pounds. So if you're carrying a backpack, you're already carrying 5 pounds. Actually, when I did Dandelion for real as a test of this sheet, I found that he was better off not using a backpack at all. And I'll show that sheet to you before we're done here if I can get through this without this being a half-hour video. I'm trying not to wear you guys out with a super long video. So anyway, go through and mark which kinds of containers you're using. This can change over time. If you're carrying a bladed weapon, you might want a scabbard. If you've got a bow, you might want 1 or 2 quivers. I realize you might have 10 quivers, but it's hard for me to imagine you actually having access to more than 2 of them at a time. So if you have 3, 4, 5 more, then just shove them in your backpack. And you'll see those explanations over here on this notes tab as you choose these different types of containers. A bandolier is a thing that you can carry daggers or scrolls or potions or shuriken or whatever it is you want on. Other is just a catch-all, so it's flagged as yes. Worn items are things that we'll track over here on the right side of the spreadsheet. Carried coins are tracked down here. What you'll see that setting these yeses and nos does a couple of things. First, it goes ahead and calculates what the weight of those things are. So even before I'm actually carrying any gear, the weight of my containers is up to 9 pounds. All right, so you have to kind of take that into consideration. And then the second thing it's doing is it's filling in these location options in this drop down over here. So it's not showing me anything that I don't say I already own. So then I can just start filling stuff in. We'll say I have a mess kit, which I don't actually know what a mess kit weighs, so don't trust me, but we'll say a mess kit weighs 3 pounds. There's a spot over here for you to put notes if you want to. If you find that this is unnecessary, You can just hide it, and then your sheet will be that much cleaner. I did find that I had a use for some of it. In particular, one thing I was going to point out is that if you're carrying a bunch of scrolls around, Dandelion is, you might want a scroll case, but I didn't put the scroll case over here as a container for a lot of reasons, but if you find that you need me to do that, I'll add it. I actually have his scroll case inside of a belt pouch, so I kind of noted that that's what was going on here in the notes. I think a scroll case can hold like 5 scrolls, but it's not something you have to use, so don't worry about being like Dandelion. So anyway, I've got my mess kit here, I've got my bags, and you see over on the summary tab, things are starting to add up. Now I'm carrying 12 pounds around. Maybe I am carrying some other stuff around. Let's just go ahead and kind of break the sheet. Let's say I'm carrying a big rock around, and I'm going to keep it in belt pouch 1. And let me show you a couple of things about this. I've got one big rock, and let's say it weighs 8 pounds. All right, well, a couple of things just happened. First off, this belt pouch total weight just turned red, because we know, according to the player's handbook, a belt pouch can't hold more than 6 pounds of gear. The belt pouch itself weighs 1 pound, so 6 plus 1 is 7. Total weight of 7 has been exceeded, so the belt pouch is letting you know that. If I said, no, wait a second, this rock actually weighs 6 pounds, then the sheet is happy. 6 pounds is the maximum in the belt pouch. The belt pouch weighs 1, so 7 is the threshold there. All right, and again, all that starts adding up over here. I'm tracking what's in your backpack and what's hanging from your backpack separately than everything else, because if you get into a fight, you might want to drop your backpack, and I want you to see what the weight would be without your backpack, because in some cases you may just have to be encumbered by what's in your backpack, but in combat you don't want to be slowed or disadvantaged because you've made a decision to carry a heavy backpack around. And I'll show you all of that as we go forward. Let's say that we do have a big rock, but we're going to keep it in our backpack, and that it weighs 40 pounds. All right. So what's immediately going to happen over here on the summary tab is I'm now exceeding Dandelion's unencumbered maximum of 40, because I'm carrying 52 pounds around. And the sheet is saying, okay, now you're encumbered. Now your speed is reduced by 10, but you're not disadvantaged on your D20s. Right. And if I were to drop the backpack, I would not be carrying 52 pounds. I would instead be carrying 4 pounds. There's 4 pounds coming from the other containers that I'm carrying that aren't inside of the backpack. So that's what the point of that part of the sheet is to show you, yeah, I am encumbered when I'm not in combat, but I'm going to drop my backpack and drop down to 4 pounds otherwise. The other way you might want to deal with this is to get yourself a bag of holding, which I'll be talking about in a post out on the boards. But let's say you have a bag of holding and you're not going to carry this big rock around in your backpack. You're going to shove it in your bag of holding, which you see now appears in this list because I've checked, yes, I do have a bag of holding. So now I've got 40-pound rock in my bag of holding. Keep in mind, though, that a bag of holding itself weighs 15 pounds. So this stowed number has gone up by 15 to represent the fact that I'm carrying a bag of holding around. But my magic storage is showing that I'm carrying 40 pounds in it. So I'm still tracking how much is in the bag of holding because it does have a limit, 500 pounds or so. But it's not counting against your encumbrance maximum if it's in there beyond the default weight of the bag itself, which is 15 pounds again. So, and then, you know, the sheet's going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. If you come down here and you say, you know what, I can't leave this dungeon without taking these 5,000 copper with me, so I'm just going to grab them all up. That ends up weighing 100 pounds. You'll see that the sheet then takes you into heavy encumbrance. Because Dandelion's exceeded his 80-pound heavy encumbrance maximum, now he's minus 20 to his speed and disadvantaged on all his D20s because he couldn't leave without those coins. The sheet also includes the concept of what I've just got labeled here as a chest, but the chest really is meant to represent anything that you own, but that you aren't carrying around. So for instance, Dandelion has a lot of clothes, and he doesn't carry them all around. So let's say you've got some fine clothes. You maybe got 3 suits of them. They weigh 6 pounds each, if I'm not mistaken. And you're going to keep them in your chest. Okay, so when you go over here to the summary tab, you'll see that your stash is, the chest itself weighs 25 pounds, and then it's got some clothes in it. So this is what the weight of the stuff that I have offline is, but I'm not hauling it around. And my sheet is still telling the Dungeon Master what you own and where it is. So you can't just magically have your fine clothes in the middle of a dungeon. They're not here with you. They're back at headquarters, or they're in the chest. Or the chest can also just represent a hole you dug in the ground to hide stuff in, or whatever. That's where you might want to use notes to represent, to indicate exactly where you're keeping this stuff. And the same goes for, if you have a lot of coins in the bank or something like that. They're not on your character. They're not with you if you need them, but they do show up in your stash over here in a total summary. So that's basically the way that the first part of the worksheet works. The second half over here on the right, this body location stuff, you'll notice it doesn't have a quantity column. It just has a weight column. So let's say that Dan is wearing leather armor. I have it flagged here to put worn armor at 1/4 weight. So leather normally weighs 10 pounds. And if it was in my backpack, it would weigh 10 pounds. But when you're wearing stuff, it's just easier to move around with. So I say you can move it at 1/4 weight. So his leather armor is at 2.5 pounds. And you'll see that this drop down has a fixed list of things that you might want to, places on your body you might be carrying something. So for instance, I might have a water skin and it weighs 5 pounds and it's hanging from my backpack. All right, that's a handy thing because when I go to drop my backpack, I'm also going to drop anything that's hanging from it. And you'll see that these, 53 pounds are actually removed in the total that's down here without backpack. So it takes that into account. So if you have things like rope, grappling hooks, water skins, I can imagine that kind of stuff hanging from your backpack. I also have done things like, you've got places on your body to put a weapon, like you want to put a hand axe on your hip. I think nearly every weapon weighs 2 pounds in this game. And so on and so on and so on. You can kind of adorn your body with the different things that you're carrying around. All that ultimately totals up, and you see where you're at encumbrance-wise. Let me show you what a filled-out sheet looks like. Here's Dandelion, the real Dandelion from Rob's game. I told you he wasn't using a backpack. He's got 27 pounds stowed, 7 1/4 pounds he's worn, about 1/2 pound in carried coin, and so he's walking around with 35.5 pounds of stuff, which keeps him under his unencumbered max. He does have a bag of holding, and that's got over 50 pounds of stuff in it. Also, back at headquarters, he's got some stuff in a stash, and he's got some coin banked. So what the sheet ends up looking like when it's completely filled out is this. You see all my yeses and nos are flagged over here, all my coin down here, and then all the stuff that he's carrying and where he carries it around. So that at a glance, the DM can come out here and see what kind of armor you're wearing, where you carry your weapons around, whether your potions are easily accessible, and that kind of stuff. Keep in mind that anything that's in a bag of holding takes an action to draw, so there are some neat limitations baked in with things like bags of holding that make them a little bit more balanced, I think. So anyway, that's what a sheet ends up looking like when it's filled out. I have got an unlocked version of the sheet that I'll share with you if you happen to be the kind of person that likes to monkey with these things. You'll see that on the summary tab, there's an area where I'm running all my macros to do the math. And also on each of the inventory tabs, there's a great big macro area that's hidden on the lockdown sheet. But if you're the kind of person that likes to monkey with these things, you're welcome to come out here and see how it works. I'd rather you didn't mess it up and then try to use it in the game if you don't know what you're doing. So that pretty much is the entire sheet. Like I said, I'll share this with you guys, and hopefully you'll find it useful. If you don't like it, no harm in just continuing to use Roll20 or beyond. Just make sure you have a single source of truth where you keep up with your gear, and that's good enough for me. And make sure I know which one it is. But I'll share these with you guys. They'll be shared only with you, so other people won't be able to see your sheet. They won't be able to mess with your sheet or monkey with it or whatever. I hope you find this useful. And thank you for sitting through another one of my videos.